Hello everybody. This is the beginning of a big set of music theory / piano tutorials for you all. I subtitled this Supplemental Lectures to Music Theory and Beginning Piano Courses, and what I'll be doing throughout this video series is giving you basically theory courses 1 through 5. From the beginning musical concepts in Theory 100 to basically Theory 105 and 106, where we go into late 20th century and early 20th century music, perhaps where we are right now in musical history in terms of concert music and other types of music that are out there. So what we are going to do, these slides are going to be available as individual courses that I'm going to put out, theories 1 through 5 or 6, and it's also going to be a big huge bundle, and you guys could either get the bundle or you guys can get the individual courses one at a time, whatever whatever works for you. But I will be putting at least some of these videos in a playlist on the CJW Music Tutorials channel for you guys to consume parts of, and that way you can get a feel for what the system of courses would be like. So in this video we're going to go into section 1. I have about 7 sections or so in this first course that we're going to go through. And the first section is the Clef review. If you've been a subscriber on my channel for any number of weeks, months, years, whatever, you've noticed that I've already covered basic clefs and all different types of clefs on other videos on this channel, but I think it's very nice and organized to have a succinct playlist or a succinct sort of way of presenting everything to you, the whole enchilada. So it may seem like I'm repeating myself, but it's good. Repetition is always good. I tell my students when they practice, repetition is good for you, and it's essential to actually nail the concepts. So we're going to go into Clef review, section 1. Alright, so the clefs. Commonly in piano music there are 2 common clefs that we use to denote the entire range of the piano. We're assuming that people are basing this off of the traditional 88-note piano, which is basically the original acoustic piano that we know and love. The original 88-note piano has high, middle, and low pitch classes or areas. Okay, so when you look at the piano here, let's pull up the claviatura. Oops. Let's pull that up. When you look at this thing here, when you look at it, it will actually give you an entire keyboard layout. This is the bottom part. This is probably not the best representation of the keyboard, but it is a smaller representation of the 88 key keyboard that would normally be in vogue. So this is the layout of the entire keyboard. The low range is in this area all the way down here, right? Lowest note being A. Okay, the mid-range is about here, and you could probably say middle C position, C, D, E, F, G, C, D, E, F, G right there. That is the middle where the clefs can sometimes overlap. And then you've got, after that, you've got the whole treble clef from here to the top, very, very top. So you've got all of the different ranges covered. You've got the bass range covered, you've got the middle range covered, and you've got the treble range covered, and then you could even add a fourth range, which is the soprano range, which is really, it's up here. So you have all of these different ranges that are in this keyboard layout. And so there are two different clefs that we use to denote high and low sounds for beginners. Bass clef is one and treble clef is the other, and we'll go into more detail on these clefs in the next slide or couple of slides. So you won't be lost. We'll always review what's on the slides multiple times to give you more than a brief rundown of what is going on. So the one that is in charge of the treble area or the higher area is called the treble clef. Another, the one that is controlling the bass area or the bass notes of the piano, is the bass clef. In the piano's middle range, like I said, the clefs overlap slightly rather. What happens is that middle C, which is this one, is shared in both the treble and bass clefs. If you look in sheet music anywhere, you'll see middle C up at the top, past the top of the bass clef, and you'll also see middle C in the ledger line below the treble clef where that starts. So they share that one note in common where they overlap. And usually, I didn't get into it on the slide, but what you would normally have here, you have the musical alphabet repeating, A through G, and we'll go through that as well again in another slide. But you have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, right? Well, you started A again because that's an octave higher than this. So you have the first 7 letters of the English alphabet, as we commonly know it, as the musical alphabet of the entire note naming series. You have A through G, and it just repeats. Repeating again. Middle octave. Repeating again. Soprano octaves up here. And then all the way up to the top there. So you've got the whole entire range covered. All right? And commonly the reason why I went through all of those is because they're usually, each octave is usually given a number. And for instance, the lowest note, A, this is A number 1. Okay? B number 1 is right next to that. C1 is next to that. D1 is next to that. E1 is next to that one. F number 1 next to that. G number 1 next to that. That's the end of the first set of A through G, the end of the first octave. Going to the second octave, A number 2, B2, C2, D2, E2, F2, G2, ending the second octave, going to the third, A number 3, B3, C3, D3, E3, F3, G3, A4, going to the fourth octave, A4, B4, C4, Middle C is C4, by the way. D4, E4, F4, G4, A4, A440. So that's, well, it's actually not A4, it's A5 now. We're in the 5th octave. A5, B5, C5, D5, E5, F5, G5, A5, A6 now. See, even sometimes it's easy to get mixed up and confused and sort of repeat yourself because it's a repeating pattern that just goes over and over and over. A6, B6, C6, D6, E6, F6, G6. Now we're going into the 7th octave. A7, B7, C7, D7, E7, F7, G7, and then A8, B8, C8. So there's only 8 C's there's 8 C's in the piano, but everything else below the A actually only has 7 of each. So A, B, and C have 8. 8 octave span, 8 notes, 8 different positions, 8 from 1 to 8. But all the rest of them, they stop short at 7 because the final note of the piano is C, the penultimate note there. So that is to say that the treble clef is from this C number 4 all the way to C number 8. And actually, if you were to get to this C up here, you would probably have 10 ledger lines off of the treble staff before you get to this, because it's so high. And then the bass clef goes from C number 4 down to A number 1. And on the opposite side of a spectrum, to get to this note, you'd probably have almost 10 ledger lines down below the bass staff in order to achieve this note written. So from here to here is bass, and then from here they share a common note, treble and bass do. From here to here, treble clef. All right, so all of that is the keyboard layout, and all of the different numbers. You'll see in a lot of different like, charts or vocal, when people are assessing what vocal range they have, you'll see them go, oh, I go from C3 to A5 or something. I mean, it's a colossal, range, but that's where they get that. That's how it pans out, because it's all related. So now you have that in your ear. Let me see. So we covered the treble clef, the bass clef, and where the ranges overlap. And now you've got clefs part 2. Okay, so you have that little thing that basically it looks like a fancy ampersand, and in fact it is an ampersand in Maestro font on the keyboard if you do that. But this is referred to the treble clef or the G clef. So the reason why is because the representation of the treble clef is where the loop of that treble clef, the second line of that staff goes through that loop, and that happens to be G. Happens to be treble G. The treble clef is used to denote the higher range in piano music. It is called the G clef because, like I said, on the staff the lower loop The treble clef goes around the second line of a staff. The second note in this treble staff is G, so that's what it looks like below. Alright, and that is, I think we'll stop it right here. If you have any questions on the treble clef or any of the stuff that I actually started in this clef review, please feel free to shoot me a question or comment, and I will see you in the next lecture.